This is RSBAND Update, episode 586, recorded Friday, September 23rd, 2016. Courage. Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of RSBAND Update. Just Sirion and myself here this week, perhaps the lonely selves here this week. Nice to have you back after your little mini vacation out east.
I have returned.
Yeah, you had a situation of circumstance. You very much wanted to be on the RuneFest episode, or actually go to RuneFest, but you had a family gatherings to attend to back in the Netherlands. So
yeah, these family gatherings were too important to just skip. And well, within the clan we have a saying like real life before RuneScape. So
there you go.
The choice was pretty easy to make, but not a lot of fun. I was really bummed out, especially after seeing the pictures and the amount of fun people had. But I'm glad that it was a success, and I have been able to catch up a bit at least.
Yeah, you of course listened to last week's RuneFest update special with myself and Mr. Bistro. That's actually
nice slip up there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what I'll reveal next. Maybe I'll reveal next that I'm not actually just someone doing a podcast, but I'm also Donald Trump with a voice modulator on or something, right? But
that will be amazing.
Anyways, this week we're going to, of course, discuss the Dagannoth King and other graphical reworks that were brought in, as well as just a couple of patch notes that were brought into the game, as well as your RuneFest highlights, as well as Mod Osborne clarifying himself on why he actually loves bank bidders so much. When you think about what bank bidders is and how some people view it as gambling and why there's questions about its existence. So Mod Osborne clarifies. So without further ado, let's just get going and talk about some of these graphical reworks. First up being the Dagannoth Kings. Dagannoth Kings had a very special spot in the heart of many RS players, and that's because they were in this dungeon that was a very deep dungeon up in the Fremenic Islands, and they were one of the hardest bosses brought into the game. After the Calphite Queen, the next step after that was the Dagannoth Kings, and the Dagannoth Kings for the longest time. What's the Dagannoth Kings' claim to fame? For their big drop, Dragon Hatchet, right? So lots of people would fight the Dagannoth Kings and earn loot and whatnot, and then obviously go for the grand prize of the Dragon Hatchet. And this was at the time when we didn't have Virago, we didn't have raids, we didn't have Araxor or the Queen Black Dragon. So this was very much an early RS boss fight. So ever since this came out, I want to say it was 08. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm guessing these came out in 08. They haven't been graphically updated. So this week, graphically updates just the Dagannoth King's Lair. Unfortunately, not the entire Dagannoth dungeon. And they also update the drops and drop tables on the Dagannoth Kings. So a bit of a TLC update for this, but just the King's Lair, not the actual Dagannoth dungeon itself. So I don't know. What do you think of this kind of update that's just on one little area like this?
It sounds like a tiny bit of work. It's probably not a lot of work for Jags as well, but we have to realize there's so many of these tiny areas, and if we don't get updates like these, then they will always stay behind and get even more behind. So I'm happy to see that every now and then there's a tiny little area that's being revisited and brought up to date. And if Jags does this every now and then, eventually most areas will get a touch up. So no complaints here.
Yeah. My only thing that I would suggest, since we were giving TLC to the Dagannoth Kings area, is that as with all the bossing instances now, there's an option to create a custom instance or enter practice mode, but that entire area is surrounded with aggressive Dagannoths. So as a result, you really can't use the right-click menu to set up a custom instance or enter practice mode. So I think one thing that they could have done if they really wanted to increase the TLC on the Dagannoth Kings area was to actually make it so that when you're down there trying to start a custom boss fight, the Dagannoths are not aggressive to you.
Well, if you look at the update, it's almost purely balancing and graphical. So what you can probably imply from this is that there is very little programming work involved. Mm-hmm. So this is probably just a bit of free
model
time
replacement and stuff like that.
Yeah. And model replacement and changing the drop table, that's something that a programmer can do like a few minutes as a matter of So this is probably one of these things as well, that some graphical environment artists had some free time, spent up their time updating this, and it gets into the game, and that's a good use of resources.
Yeah, and actually this was based on a player concept by a player named Legend Arts. So it was inspired by the players, so we do have the player base to thank for this.
But yeah, that is why we won't see these quality of life upgrades like improving how the instancing works, because there's no actual... So this wasn't being picked up as an actual let's improve this whole thing. It's just let's make it look nice. So
yeah, that's fair.
You have to put it in the right scope.
Yeah, put in the right basket.
There you go.
Also, some wilderness dungeons being reworked, including the 4 and 3 dungeon, the Lava Maze, and the Deep Wilderness dungeon. Of course, the 4 and 3 dungeon is the one that was brought out when the Revenants were moved from the wilderness back into their own little dungeon. This used to be actually a hotbed of botting activity because it was a dungeon that had green dragons in it. But it was something that PKers really didn't go into that much because, well, I mean, it's a dungeon, and those have always been areas that really didn't draw the PKers' attention. So this used to be a botting hotbed, but thankfully now that has died down quite a bit. Anyone who has not gone to the wilderness to have a look at these dungeons, I would highly recommend that you do that. These just look absolutely stunning with all the modern environmental effects and lighting and, basically everything that NXT can do really shows what the engine is capable of. So 4 and 3 dungeon is really nice.
I still have to do some like the hard and the elite wilderness tasks, and I know that killing all the revenants is one of the tasks, so I'm sure I'll be able to visit it. It's a bit of a shame that these graphical reworks weren't ready when the wilderness tasks came out, but still, I think there's a lot of people still having to do the tasks.
Exactly. So. And I mean, graphical reworks are, technically a low priority update unless they are, highlighting a specific area. So I think that, Jagex would have definitely put this out with the wilderness update had it been available. But, with it not being available with the wilderness task set, I don't think much was lost. It still accomplished the greater goal of revitalizing certain areas of the wilderness. Though whether or not that still is the case is up for debate, so we'll just have to wait and see on what happens with that. I just say that because there's a story out there that the only place PKers are frequenting now of all the recently updated areas is the Divination Crater. But
I mean, the graphical reworks are there now, and it's permanent. So if a new player enters the dungeon for the first time, they're gonna still have the effect of like, wow, this looks amazing, and well, it's there now. So I think it's a great investment.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then of course there's the Red Dragon dungeon, which at the back in the olden days was one of the very few places you could find red dragons in RuneScape, and that's why of course no one fought them, and most often you did stay with Blue Dragonhide all the way from whatever level range that was back then. I believe 50. You would skip the Red Dragonhide and just use your blue until level 60 because, well, no one would fight red dragons because they were in the wilderness, and that's the way it goes. So, but once again, this dungeon looks great and really highlights the atmospheric and lighting effects with the lava. And then the final dungeon that was updated was, of course, the Deep Wilderness dungeon, which is located just to the east of the magic training area there, and nothing down there really except for hill giants and a couple fire giants, but still accomplishes the same role of updating the graphics and making it look like it's part of 2016 RuneScape and not RuneScape from 2006.
Makes it fit nicely with the rest of the wilderness, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. So, anyways, there's our graphical reworks for this week. What do we got? I think it's on to patch notes next. Or no, Invention XP changes with lamps. This is an interesting one, don't you think?
Yeah, I have to be honest, it mostly sounds like a bit of an oversight.
Yeah, because, I mean, level 70 odd invention, and you're only getting 7k bonus XP or 7,000 XP from a lamp or a star. That I mean, I can see why I would personally be happy about that, but you're not getting what you deserve with that. So
yeah, so it would still use the old experience curves to calculate the experience you get.
Right.
And, well, to get a 99 in a normal skill, it's 13 million experience, and for invention, it's, well, what is it?
40.
Lot. 40. So, at the already reduced amount of experience you get from the stars and lamps, that is basically just a drop on a really, really hot plate. So, I think this was overdue.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's a perfect week to bring this in because you could be getting stars from Treasure Hunter for your double XP weekend. So, perfect weekend to bring this in, and I am glad that they did this because it did feel like you were kind of being scammed when you were doing this. So
yeah. When the lamps first came out for invention, I added them. I added some bonus XP to invention. I was like, this is nothing. This is not going to make a difference. Then at some point I did start to add like all my stars into invention because I was like, every tiny bit helps, but this is definitely going to make a bigger difference and make using lamps and stars feel worth it again on invention.
Yeah, and then after you're like, what's the point?
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, that's really understandable. It says additional lamps and stars that previously scaled the reward with your level and a chosen skill are affected. If we've missed any, let us know and we'll take a look at it on a lamp by lamp basis. So I'm assuming this is quest rewards.
I assume so. Yeah, like
because
lamps,
they would have got the treasure hunter lamps and stars right off the bat. So I'd be interested to see what the new XP curve is. I tried to look this up on the wiki beforehand, but I didn't see anything. Maybe I was just searching for the wrong thing.
Also think about rewards from, say, Troll Invasion. That's also...
yeah. Oh, yeah, that would be a huge one. Though, can you choose Invention XP for that?
Why wouldn't you?
I thought it was only limited to combat skills and a few select skills, no?
Oh, that might be, actually. I don't know. I thought it was any skill, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not
sure.
You
want me to look it up?
You could. I mean, I don't use Troll Invasion, so it's not one of my D&Ds that I do. So if you could do that, that would be great. But
or I can just look it up online, you know?
Yeah, and another important thing while we're here to mention is that with it being double XP weekend, the double XP you have in a skill does stack with the double XP modifier. So
it's a reward book, and it gives experience in any skill.
Okay, fair enough. So, definitely something to focus on then. All right. Patch notes, only a few things I think this week that really stood out, and you highlighted these, so why don't you take us through them?
All right. So the first one is that you can now augment any dyed weapons or armor. So I think it's only tier 90 armor that you can dye.
Right.
If you have that dyed, you can now augment it as well, so you can show off how rich you are and earn invention experience at the same time.
Whoop-de-doo. And, I mean, obviously, there's no reason not to augment dyed armor because it's the same stats. Otherwise, it was just probably an oversight at the beginning that needed to be fixed. So, All right. What else we got?
There's also changes to divination caches. Instead of every 3 hours, they will now spawn every hour, but the buffs you can only still get every 3 hours.
That's fair, I think.
And yeah, because they have been balanced for that, and they're pretty powerful, so it's good. But this gives players a lot of flexibility because if you happen to play on the wrong hours, this could be really
And it's just so annoying wanting to time your divination training session for a cache, and now the fact that it's every hour really makes a difference. So that's great.
Hopefully that means we're gonna have people playing it more. I mean, it was already pretty popular for people actually playing train divination,
like 60 to 70,000 divination XP depending on your level.
And those, like, the actual XP reward will still be there, so this is going to speed up divination training somewhat.
And I mean, just the fact that a decision like this was made after so long that divination came out, I think is a good thing, because when you think about it, you don't want to overload a new skill with, training methods and whatnot that really take away from that skill. So the fact that this came out, 3 years after divination came out, I think that's fair to increase the XP rate on it, because if you look at all the other primary skills, woodcutting, mining, and fishing, they are really AFKable and have good XP rates at level 90 plus in the 80s. So it's fine that divination caught up with that.
And also consider the fact that this is a really good community activity. There is 2 teams needed to do caches. Like, one time you are one of the I forgot the name. One of the automatons, Grass, and the other half of the D&D you are collecting memories and putting them in the crater. So there's 2 parts, and you have to work together and not all be Grass at the same time to make this somewhat successful. So I think it's a really good D&D that really thrives with community. So promoting that and keeping it popular, I can only be really happy about this.
Yeah, and following from this, interactions within the cache have been made less clunky. So, just general improvements, and anything that focuses on the community is great.
I mean, it's an interesting decision to take content that's already quite popular and make it better instead of trying to rework something that's dead. And this shows how maybe it's a bit of realization of Jagex that if you try making Fist of Gothics popular again, that won't work. But making these D&Ds that actually work, make those let those keep up with the standards of new updates these days. And people will keep playing them. I mean, people also still play Big Chin Chomper and Sinkholes every day.
And I think you hit on a very valid point here, is that by making the D&Ds that work more popular, it is definitely drawing attention to them, and people will be more likely to do them. And that's great, but then this kind of puts activities like Fist of Gothics and the Great Orb Project in another category that they're still only played on Spotlight. So what's the fix for those? Because Spotlight was supposed to fix that. And I mean, I guess it's okay if they're only being played during Spotlight, but I don't know. Fist of Gothics and Great Orb Project just feel so old, and neglected compared to something like caches or sinkholes. So, like, what do we do with that?
I do not know.
Like, I mean, they removed the rat catchers one. Like, what would be next? Remove Fistaguthics?
Well, we have seen rat catchers removed. We have seen the Burthorpe game room removed, I think. Or is it still there? I think it was removed.
I don't recall seeing that, and I think if they did remove that, I would be very sad. But
I think they removed it with the Burthorpe rework, but don't quote me on that.
all right. But alrighty, so there's our patch notes for this week. Definitely minor, but having a huge impact in the way things are in the game.
It's still there.
Yeah, that's good. Because I didn't remember it being removed, and I remember spending a lot of time there. So if they did remove it, that would have been something I would have made a big stink about.
All right.
So RuneFest. We're going to talk a little bit more about RuneFest, mainly because you weren't there, but also because Jagex wants our opinions on what was revealed at RuneFest and going into 2017. But before that, there was a post on the forums published this week by Mod Osborne in which he was pretty much justifying bank bidders, and it's entitled "Why I Love Bank Bidders." And I think he needed to make this post because there was a lot of question in the community about what was going to be happening with this and how it was going to work, and would this be a case of the rich getting richer and so on and so forth, because you could just throw as much money down on a ticket for one of these accounts that you wanted and not potentially get anything out of it unless risk like 30 million, which most people who are just starting out don't have. But he addresses that in this post here, and he basically says, to start off with, is that if you win the bank. You win everything in that band account's bank, whether it's good or bad, including any potential rares. So there's no question that it'll be whatever's in the game. So you could be getting a blue party hat, which is pretty astounding. So we got clarification on that. He also highlights that it is an event, and with all that entails, it will be something temporary, akin to the drop or the September raffles. So it's not going to be around every week and every day. You need to go to the Varrock Bank and pop in your lottery ticket every week to be a part of the draw. So there's that. It's temporary.
The drop is, I get why they do this.
It's embarrassing.
The drop has been used like 5 times in total, maybe.
And it's never really worked on live stream, has it?
No, people crash. It doesn't support like the amount of people, and so they end up using it in events like the 15-year party. And I don't know.
Yeah, but even then it was just instance, and it was you, and that really wasn't that fun.
I am not entirely sure if it's worth the development time. But yeah. Sorry for interrupting
That's
you.
okay. And they're also wanting to highlight with bank bidders that botters do not prosper. And if they get found out, their items get taken away and their accounts are no longer theirs. So it's that reinforcing that we have control of the bots. And now here's the thing that explains how it works. They're still designing it, but one pitch hits all the buttons for Osborne, and he says, imagine there are 5 anonymous accounts in front of you. They'll be completely anonymous. We are not interested in the manipulation of the game, and you examine each of them to find out their stats, account age, and some other relevant details. You have 1 ticket and 1 ticket only, and cannot purchase any more than that. And the cost of the ticket is somewhere within the realms of 100,000 GP. So you decide who to place your ticket on, and you decide which account looks most likely to be awesome. Everyone else does the same, placing their 100,000 GP on that account, and that is most likely to give great spoils. Then at the end of the week, no more tickets can be placed, and then Jagex picks a winner of each account, and then one by one, the bank accounts of each of the band players is revealed, most likely on stream. We find out, as I said before, whether the player has a bronze pickaxe or a surfeit of great stuff. And it doesn't end there. He likes the idea that everyone who bet on the most valuable account getting something special, something relatively valuable, or perhaps cosmetic. Basically, you're going to get a reward for being wise enough to spot the best account. This will happen once every few months like the drops, or several times over 1 month like the September raffle. Not going to be persistent. And then one other discussion on rares being included, and that is effectively what the design looks like right now. For me, I think this allays my fears about it looking too much like gambling, mainly because it's going to be limited to a set price like 100,000 GP, and if you choose the right one, regardless, you are going to get something. So it's not like, I'm going to throw my life savings in RuneScape away just to have a chance at getting this, and at the end, oops, I got nothing. So that's good. And I'm also happy that there are limits as to the amount of tickets you can have and how much they're going to be. And finally, how often this is going to happen. So I think this successfully puts my concerns to bed with bank bidders.
So I filled in the recap survey before I read the post, and I was not happy about the bank bidders, and I let Jax know about that quite clearly.
Uh-huh.
You read the post, and just like you, I feel a bit better about it. It's not as bad as I imagined. I will probably not participate, but I would not find many issues with it being in the game. On the other hand, the fact that Motherspawn has to go out there and defend his idea shows that there was apparently quite a negative backlash from the community. And that raises the question, is this really what the community is waiting for? I understand that JMods can have passion projects, but if you spend development time on something that nobody is really waiting for, that sounds like a waste to me.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll have to see how this pans out, because I think that if you show enough people, getting something great out of this, then you might be able to turn the community perspective on this. And we also need to remember that for half of 2017, we're not going to have, the weekly content updates. We're going to have mainly filler content. And when you look at bank bidders, that's the kind of thing you could do over the summer of 2017, filling the point between the first expansion and the second expansion. Is you could have, a running list of accounts that you're auctioning off with bank bidders. So, I mean, it's definitely aiming towards that second half of 17. So I think that is there. But we'll just have to wait and see what the community thinks when we see the first round of this. And, it could ultimately be the best way of spurring community interaction if it works, unlike the drop, right?
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. As it stands right now, there's a lot of it I can say about it that's maybe not particularly positive, but I'll hold off on that. And it's not the worst. Let's just see how it turns out, but it's not having me really, really excited for next year.
All right, fair enough. Well, let's talk about some other concerns then in the 2017 concern survey that they put out after RuneFest.
Yeah.
So, this is of course a survey that is basically the follow up to the Summer Summit survey, and let's just say that it's very interesting that they are putting this out there, because by putting this out there, it shows that they are wanting to ensure that the community is striking the right tone after something that is a huge investment like RuneFest. So let's just go through some of the questions on here. And they start off with the rest of 2016, asking, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for October 2016 content? So let's just answer this together. How excited are you for Bounty Hunter on a scale of 1 to 10?
7, 8.
All right.
I mean, not personally interested, but I'm really interested in the fact that it might revitalize PvP, and that might be really important.
Yeah. Okay, what about the Arc Chapter 2?
Not really.
All right, so 3?
Yeah.
Halloween Invention of Disaster Event.
6.
Alrighty. On a scale of 1 to 10, November content, Fate of the Gods 2.
8.
Really? I had to say 10 for that. So we'll go 9 on this shared survey.
Okay.
Bank bidders.
1.
All right. I'm gonna say 6 for that. So we'll give that a 4. And then December content, Sliske's Endgame.
10.
10. All right, same. And then the Christmas event and Advent calendar.
7.
All right, I can agree with that. And then it says, how concerned are you with October 2016 content? So Bounty Hunter, 1 to 10, very concerned or not concerned?
9.
Okay, so you're very concerned about it then.
It's one of these things that are really important to succeed, I think.
Yeah, that's exactly what I
If this
told them
doesn't
as well.
succeed, PvP is going to get another hit.
Yep.
That it can't
Yep.
take right now.
Exactly.
This has to be right.
Arc, Chapter 2.
6.
Alrighty. And then the Halloween event, I don't think there's much to be concerned about with that.
I don't really care.
But yeah, you're entirely right that Bounty Hunter does have a huge weight associated with it. Because this comes back, this is the first reincarnation of PvP that we see, and it needs to be right, because if it's not right, the Wilderness update was for nothing, and people will just lose interest in PvP unless Deathmatch has the ability to turn people's interest, which, I mean, you need a string of successes in order to make PvP interesting, I feel. So I'm with you that I'm saying I'm very concerned about the release of Bounty Hunter, and not because, it'll come in and, completely crash and burn. It's that it needs to be done in a successful manner. So, yeah. I think that's the same tone that you struck, right?
Yeah, both Deathmatch and Bounty Hunter they're quite important to keep that part of the game alive. If they don't work out, then basically we can scrap that part for the future.
Indeed. And then the Arc, I think it's natural to have concerns about the Arc Chapter 2 because of how Part 1 rolled out. So I think that as long as they successfully learn from Part 1 and don't make it as grindy and make it so that we can get right into the content without needing to spend, whatever it was, 2 hours plus gathering stuff to do our first Uncharted Isles mission, I think that'll be great.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe it's going to make things a bit more interesting. But if it doesn't work out, it won't have me feeling bad about it either way.
Yeah, and I mean, it really, I think, was embodied at RuneFest. The reason why the Arc is so hard to do is because initially it was designed as just this anonymous chain of islands and player-owned ports. There was never the intention of actually having to be able to go there and put a story behind them, right? Or put content behind them. So, all right. So, concerned about November content. Fate of the Gods 2. I don't think there's much to be concerned about with that. Jagex is always good with these tail end quests. And bank bidders, I think we can probably put that as about a 6 or a 7 for concern. Though most of that was probably washed away by the news posting that we talked about. So,
yep.
All right, I'll move that down to 5. December content, once again, not really concerned about Sliske's Endgame or the Christmas event, I don't think, going forward. Nope. So that's good. And then we get to the part where we're asked about how likely we are to have membership. I will be continuing membership through 2017, so there's not much question there. I don't know about you.
I put in 3/10.
Yeah, same. Now, excited for the RuneScape expansions, including the Golden City of Menaphos. So, how excited are we for expansions in June, September, and December? The idea of 3 large Prifddinas scale updates in 1 year.
I think I put something in like a 7 because I don't really want to judge anything yet until I see how the execution is.
Yeah.
There's so little to go on.
It wouldn't be fair to make that judgment right now about how it's going to work with the filler content and everything. So, Golden City of Menaphos, though, I think it's going to be interesting and good to have an alternative to Prif, because they said that Menaphos was going to be geared towards finding efficiencies and maximizing them, whereas Prif is, of course, just the standard guaranteed XP levels. So, once again, I think we can put around a 7 for there.
So I know a lot of people found this the most amazing announcement, and I have never really been excited about Menaphos myself. So this is, once again, we'll have to wait and see how things turn out.
Yeah. Tombs of Menaphos, citywide pyramid plunder?
Meh.
Yeah, okay. 4, I guess. Krondys Quest?
8.
Okay.
It's quest. I mean, I like quests.
All right. I was never much for the Scabarite quest series.
That's true. Maybe like a 7 then, or 6.
Like it was different than the Zaros quest in the desert, and of course different than the Elder God quest in the desert. So, I mean, it's just not a quest line I get excited about.
That's true.
The Amesket Slayer dungeon that was highlighted at RuneFest.
Yeah, I had 3.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the mechanic of having a dungeon where you get a reward at the end, kind of like a boss fight, is an interesting one. Though I don't know if that is a way of doing Slayer in this area. But, I mean, it's going to be a one-time shot thing, so I'm going to have to go for 4 on that, just because it's a different mechanic to Slayer. And Slayer has been the same since it came out. And when you think about it, if Slayer was being released in 2017, this is probably how they'd do it.
Yeah. I mean, Slayer is, I'm going to say it, it's a grind. There's nothing.
It's a grind that everyone likes.
To it. I think we'll come back to it later, but...
Netflix and skill.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
Did you catch that at RuneFest?
Yes, that had me so angry.
All right, how about the Slayer cap released to 120? Raised to 120?
I'll get back to that.
All right, I'm not very excited about that, so I gave that a 1.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to, basically.
All right, how about the bank rework? I gave that an 8.
Yeah, same. 9, 8. It's really good.
Yeah, because bank rework is basically, just a complete revamp of the bank that hasn't been done since RS2 came out. Mm-hmm. We've had a few things added on, but clue scroll rework. I don't think that we need these. My
response was again.
Exactly. All right, so that gets a 3 for me. The mining and smithing rework, definitely a 10.
10 out of 10.
Yeah, we need this, and we'll get to the concerns about that on the concerns page, because there are a lot. Boss, solo or team boss?
Oh my God, not at all.
That's a 1 for me. Shattered Worlds.
8.
Yeah, that's...
But not personally.
Right. And the reason I give this an 8 is because I think it has the potential to transform combat in the way that Slayer transformed combat. So
I think it is one of these things that are vital for long-term health of RuneScape.
Yeah, definitely.
We need the repeatable content. We need that.
Yeah,
Shattered
especially
Worlds.
Content that changes.
Shattered World might be that one thing that's going to turn things around.
All right. How about the Elder Gods quest?
8.
Okay, I had to give that a 10.
I'm not that excited about the whole Elder Gods timeline.
I honestly think that we're going to get thrown into the Elder Gods quest line after Sliske's Endgame, the same way we were thrown into the Sixth Age after what was the quest where Guthix was called again? I forget.
The World Wakes.
The World Wakes. Yeah. I think we're going to get thrown into the Elder Gods questline the same way we were thrown into the Sixth Age after the World Wakes.
Cool.
Evil Dave?
10.
Okay, I'm giving that a 7.
That is going to be so good. I'm so excited for it.
I was personally a bit put off by the concept art.
The concept art was amazing. Loved it.
All right. I mean, let me just look at that again, because I mean, it was Dave with his arm around Zamorak, and it's like, okay, Zamorak doesn't look very pleased, so he looks kind of like Grumpy Cat, wouldn't you say?
Yes, totally.
So that's why I put myself in there. And I don't know, maybe I just can't handle these kind of oddball quests, except for the Case in the Gower quest, because it was celebrating, what RuneScape is. But we'll just have to wait and see. Though I did say in the past I would like more lighthearted quests. All right, combat pets and the pet park?
1.
That was the same response we had last week. Weather?
I think I put like a 5.
Yeah, it's about right. 4 or 5, yeah. Achievements?
6.
Okay. Why is that?
But I sort of revised that. I'll get back to that when we talk about my highlights.
All right.
Well, I was like, the first idea I got from this was it's going to look like World of Warcraft with like the huge interface with like where you get all the achievements. That's what put me off at the start, but now I've reconsidered and I'll explain to that in a bit.
All right, so I don't think we can really discuss how concerned we are about the expansions yet, because we don't know exactly how they're going to work. And I think if they have enough potential Jagex oversight, it's not going to be really a huge problem. So I really don't want to dwell too much on that. But what I do want to dwell on is the concern for the mining and smithing rework. And for those of you guys watching on the video version, I have already filled this survey in, so it's not like I'm just filling this in with blank parts and then I'm going to submit it again. I've already submitted this survey. I'm just using this as a visual guide. But the mining and smithing rework, we have to be very concerned about this, I think.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because at RuneFest they said that this is practically a complete redesign of
the redesign.
Right. So, with that being said, I think the fact that they went from showing off what looked out to be a fairly fleshed out concept on stream on a Tuesday to announcing pulling it back on Thursday afternoon, that brings me a lot of concern about how much the players are going to be involved in this. And they also said that the players are going to be involved on design document level, kind of like Prith. So, I hope that the vocal parts of the community will not make so much noise that it influences the design in a way that is not conducive to getting what the skill needs. At the end of the day, I think Jagex needs to maintain, top oversight on this update and ensure it hits the key points that they highlighted on the live stream and in the past. So I'm just worried about that merging of player and Jagex game design.
Yeah, so the message I sent Jagex, I spent quite a bit of time on actually writing in the comment box on this page, and what my message to Jagex, I'll repeat it here, is to improve RuneScape, you have to have the courage. And no, this is not a reference to Apple.
I was just about to say, it's just like the courage to remove the headphone jack.
You have to have the courage to go away from the things that are and make things different. And they did that with the evolution of combat. I personally still believe the changes they've made were right. They
Oh,
made
yeah,
the right
definitely.
decision of getting rid of the old system and replacing it by a new one because the game needed that. And I think the same thing has to happen with mining and smithing. Maybe less extremely so. Like the basic concept of like hitting a pickaxe on a rock, that can stay, right? No question about it. But then there need to be big changes to make this work, and it's gonna break some people's gameplay. It's gonna break the way some people are used to playing the game. Sucks for them, is my response.
Exactly.
People in RuneScape are really focused on maximum gains, maximum, and that might be experience, that might be money, that might be whatever. But when you make big changes like this, all the methods they spend hours finding out don't work anymore, and they have to start over, and they don't want that. And I think that's what's holding back these updates. And I think Jagex needs to be daring and say, well, that's bad luck, but we have to change this. And it's a fun challenge to actually find out new training methods.
And what they could also do this time to get ahead of this is that, I think that the largest problem, I don't know if you agree with this, with the evolution of combat rework, was the fact that it was handled horribly from a PR standpoint.
Yep.
There was no evangelism out there for the new combat system from Jagex or any of their allies in the community, I think, except for us, of course. But, we're just one podcast. If you look at all the other major communities out there, pretty much everyone initially during the beta phase was concerned about it, and no one out there was in the beta getting their feet wet and seeing how things worked. And I think that's why we enjoyed it so much, is because for each time they had an open beta for the evolution of combat, we went in there and we tested everything. And I think that is why we like the system so much. And I wish they could do this for mining and smithing. I've said this many times before on the show that if you want to get the true feedback of your player base, you take a representative sample of the people that have trained mining and smithing in the last 6 to 8 months, and you invite them to a closed beta. You put them under NDA that they are legally bound, that they can't talk about it, and then they help you test this out. RuneScape is a mature enough game that they can do that. I think that would be the best way to ensure that, the widest possible breadth of a community gets their opinion in on this.
Agreed.
So, but yeah, I totally echo your concerns with that. And it needs to be in the forefront whenever we talk about this and whenever Jagex talks about it. So I completely agree with you. 2017 combat. Are we concerned about that?
2017 combat?
Yeah.
No,
yeah, not really. I'll get to what I said later in about this, but Shattered Worlds, I put that as about a 5, just for the same reason that you did, because I think it has the ability to be a really transformative piece of gameplay, and it needs to come out right. 2017 lore, not really concerned about that. Pet Park.
No, I'm not concerned about that.
Weather.
No.
Achievements?
A bit.
All right, why?
I don't know. It's going to transform the game, and if it does it wrongly, that's going to have repercussions.
All right. Well, that sounds good then. Moving on from that, were you disappointed by any of our announcements or the specific lack of content? I filled this in. I actually spent a good amount of time on this posting here. First and foremost, I said I gave them the pitch again for Prestige Mode, which we've talked about numerous times. Hey, I got to do it. It was my idea, right?
Yeah.
Then I also gave them the pitch about skill pets acting as Prestige Mode, where your skills pets are counters, and they count XP for you. And then each time you level up to 99, you unlock a new perk or passive ability. So I gave them that pitch. Then I also mentioned the fact that there was no specific commitment to a POH rework, which I think is desperately needed based on the way construction works and what's possible with how the aquarium reworks and what we saw at the Summer Summit. So I hope...
POH rework was in the top 12, right?
Yeah, it was. And, I mean, there's no commitment to it. Unless it's going to come out in the first half of the year and they're just, teasing us like they said they would be for certain updates.
In addition to sitting down, you can now lie down on things.
There you go. And then, of course, I also had to bring up the player-owned farm and greenhouse as well.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yep. So that's what I brought up. And then, of course, is there anything else you'd like to tell us? I just gave them the obligatory plug to RSBANDBUpdate and our humble community input.
Should have done that.
Yeah, see? You gotta think about this, right? Anyways, so that's basically the recap survey. What do you have to say about RuneFest yourself now?
Oh, I get to go through my highlights now.
Yes, please. Or lowlights in the event that some things are missing.
So let me start out by saying that the things I picked out, they're concerns mostly, instead of being really excited about things. But there are many things I am excited about. I think the announcements they did this year are better than the ones they did last year. So
it definitely feels like there's more of a vision this year, I think, is what
yes.
I felt, which is excellent.
That is something I'll get back to, but that makes me really happy. Like, last year felt like Jagex was astray.
Yep.
That seems to have gone. It seems that the new content leadership has finally found their direction, and I'm really hoping that we're going to see more of that over 2017. So generally, I'm quite positive. I'm also a bit scared, concerned, skeptical maybe, about the big changes they're going to make to the update scheme. I think it's too early to make any speculation about what's going to happen, but that's going to have a big impact on how the entire thing around the game works. It's going to have a huge influence on update schedules. It's going to have a huge influence on how players interact with the game, and it's scary from a community perspective as well, because if this falls entirely wrongly, it could have really negative effects. If this turns out to be the right choice, we might see a huge increase in number of new players coming to RuneScape, or maybe players returning to RuneScape. So all in all, I think it's very interesting is what's going to happen, and I am moderately positive about what they said. That being said, though, I was really, really disappointed in having no mention at all from about clans. There was no commitment to doing the clan permission rework, for example, which we have been promised for years now. And we were talking about how important the community is for RuneScape in, say, Deathmatch and Shattered Worlds. And I think clans are one of the pillars of RuneScape community. It's, for many people, the reason they're
one
still
of the most
playing
vibrant
RuneScape.
Pillars left.
Yes.
Because the PCAN community is gone. Zybez just shut down. And, fanside support has been cannibalized. And it's not really that present anymore. So
Indeed. So clans are of utmost importance for RuneScape, and they get no mentioned on an event like this, even though we have been promised. And I mean like the clans in general, I speak from the leadership, basically, to have like a clan permission rework, for example, because the clan system is clunky and really horrible to work with. So I was really disappointed that there was no mention of that at all. And there has been some discussion between the clan leaders about this. And something really fishy is going on. Like, we get mixed signals from the JMods when we talk about this. There seems to be work going on, and there's sometimes hinted towards some things happening, but there's no transparency at all. And this, I don't like it.
Yeah, and I mean, from the front end, I can definitely see that the updates are needed. And, I think that part of the problem might be coming from the fact that Jagex has decided to put their community outreach all into the basket of video makers and streamers, as evident by this year's RuneFest slate.
Yeah, it's apparently they're depending on people just to follow people, maybe not even using in-game things. I actually would imagine that a lot of communication around these video makers community has moved to Discord.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That has all the options I mean, look at what the flexibility that Discord gives you. The role system in-game is so limited. We have to hack ranks together and have to give people ranks based on trust because we can't make good separations in permissions, and it doesn't sound like rocket science to fix this. So really disappointing, and I really hope you're going to see a full turnaround on this, because if this is not fixed in the next year or so, that is going to have bad consequences within the clan community. Yeah. And I'm really happy to see that there is a really, really active clan leadership community, a small sub-community, that's really pushing against Jagex, like, fix this because it needs to be done. So I'm hoping that the urgency of this is gonna sip through Jagex at some point. But for now, it's a black box, and we can only hope for the best.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that, most people, I think, maybe not most, probably not a majority, but a good chunk of the people who play RS are probably in a clan, so they could have used some mention of this at RuneFest. So it's a fair point.
I mean, the problem is I'm a clan leader, but I'm only one in few relatively. So this is one of these updates that is not very widely seen by players. And if Jagex would announce at RuneFest, we are going to redo the clan management interface, there will be a lot of people yelling, but most people will be like, okay, I do not know what it even is. So that's, I mean, I understand that it's not as spectacular as announcing Fate of the Gods 2, say, but it's important.
Yeah. Now, another thing you wanted to talk about was invention and other elite skills.
Yeah, so at the start of this year, maybe even last year, I don't know when they announced it, but invention was this big thing. And why was invention so exciting? It was, of course, a very interesting skill, but it opens up lots of opportunities for, like, quest rewards, D&D rewards, all that kind of stuff. Because, as Jagex said, when invention was announced, they were short of giving new rewards to players, and invention would open up all this stuff, all this new possibilities, all these new perks, all these new devices. And invention came out, then we saw a few minor invention updates, and nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. Then there was the whole thing about, with this concept of elite skills, we can bring a new elite skill out like every year or so. Where is the mention of elite skills? I mean, I have not heard what is being discussed on the skilling second stage session. Maybe that's where elite skills have been talked about, but there is no big review about a next elite skill next year.
Mm-hmm.
Where is this whole idea going that last year was going to change RuneScape forever?
Yeah.
I'm going to leave that question hanging open in the air because I don't think you have an answer either.
No, I don't. And I mean, like, the way invention has been rolled out, we had the discussion that it doesn't necessarily need to be an elite skill.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that being said, until invention is fully fleshed out, I don't think that there should be elite skills being brought into game. And, whether or not they're needed, I don't even know. Because it doesn't feel like invention is truly an elite skill right now.
Mm. Yeah, so what strikes me as quite peculiar is this whole thing was announced as a big thing, and then it's brought out and never really gets to its full potential and is dropped for new ideas like expansions and areas. So that shaves off the credibility of Jagex. I'm really sad to say this, but we can't have new big things announced every single year and then have them left hanging halfway done.
Right. That's entirely right. And that is, in my view, the core problem with elite skills and inventions, the way it has been highlighted. So, anyways. And then that leads into something else, and that is the new Slayer cap to level 120, which doesn't effectively make it an elite skill, but,
It is going to be really weird, because we have dungeoneering now, which is different from all the other skills. Call it a minigame if you insist. I don't care. It's a skill, but it's a weird skill. And now they're going to make Slayer there, and I think Slayer could have been an elite skill, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. Because it involves combat, right?
I think a lot of people don't bother really training Slayer until they are higher combat, where it actually gets interesting, because Slayer at low-level Slayer levels is not interesting at all. It's like kill skeletons. Who cares? So it could have been very well an elite skill with some combat skills as requirements. And it's going to get a really weird position now. And that's all fine, but what actually upsets me most about this is they are increasing the Slayer cap, and we just talked about it. Slayer is grinding. That's literally all it is. It's killing monster after monster. There's nothing interesting to it. There is no interesting mechanic to it. And if you happen to like combat, I'm really happy for you that you kept training it. But if you're like me and you don't like combat, this is not a good thing. And I have the feeling that the only reason that Jagex can get away with saying, hey, we're increasing this cap from 99 to 120 is because it's going to be profitable for people. And I think that's a bad thing. I feel this is not a good way of expanding the game's content. So
and I mean, it just feels like the lower skill levels are too saturated, and as a result, they want to put more in up top.
I understand what is the reasoning behind this. Slayer is a bit of these skills that you play at the end, like in the last few combat levels. That's when it gets interesting, and then it's over before you know it, because it's quite fast to train, to be honest, if you do like normal combat training. So
Netflix and skill.
If it were an elite skill, it would have worked out
Netflix
perfectly.
And kill. Yeah.
And now, I don't know. I liked how they did it at the end. I was grinning at the fact that they just turned around and were like, "Hey, we're gonna increase the Slayer cap." Had some comedic effect.
That was very Apple-like.
But I think the actual content wasn't great.
Another thing that that you forgot to mention in this talk here about Slayer is that they are effectively going to be nerfing down the Slayer creatures launch last November in the Slayer month.
Oh, yeah. So I do not know what to say about this. I was not particularly excited about the Slayer monsters update, but what I was excited about was that it added a new way of, like, a new tier of monsters that actually required attention to kill with higher rewards as return. I like that. It's like a tier in between normal Slayer monsters and bosses, maybe. and they're gonna get rid of it. Why? Well, I can tell you why. The community.
Yeah, definitely. And we've been through this all before. Like, I think that these monsters were great in practice and in theory, but it's not what the people want.
I have only had experience with the living wyverns, and I found them really, really difficult in the beginning. I could only kill like 5. I had to look up guides, I had to ask for tips, and I ended up being able to kill like, well, what would it be, 20, 25 on a trip? And that was fun to find out how to do it. It was a challenge. I enjoyed the process of learning how to kill living wyverns, and at the end I felt satisfied.
Yep.
The wyverns have a really interesting mechanic with the fire.
Yeah, I feel like we're, just retreading old territory here, and, that's not effectively what's being fixed here, which is unfortunate, but Slayer is Slayer, and that's what the community drives, and I don't think there's going to be any change to that. And that reminds me, another thing I mentioned to Jagex in the survey, the post-RuneFest survey, was what about the survey question about equalizing skilling in combat? Where'd that go? So, anyways, lots of open questions here, I think, regarding combat. Now, achievements and expansions. Did you have concerns about those, or is that an excitement?
So, achievements I was initially not really excited about. I thought this is just gonna make RuneScape more like any other MMO, which has like huge interfaces with all the different kinds of achievements. I know it from World of Warcraft, I know it from Guild Wars 2. There's no real excitement about the interfaces themselves. Like every now and then you get a pop-up like, hey, you now killed 1,000 goblins. Well done. But then it got me thinking, and then I saw the actual presentation, and what it is going to do is it's going to change how completionists work. Right now, completionist is a binary toggle. You completed everything, or you did not complete everything. And there's no way to show off how far you are in that process, except for like intermediate achievements like the quest cape or like skilling capes or the maxing cape. This is going to change that. This is going to make the whole thing more gradual. And what I hope that this will achieve is that it will make people less focused on getting the everything done and the completionist cape, and it's going to have people more focused on just doing things and slowly progressing. So it's hopefully going to get people back to like the skilling attitude. Yes, in the end you want to get 99 in a skill, but you're also happy about these level 80 and level 90 and level 95 milestones. And I hope that that attitude is going to get back with the achievements. It's hopefully going to reduce the completionist vision some people have.
Yeah, and I think that's really great because from the Stats podcast a couple weeks back, they did say that only a very small percentage of people are maxed, 9,000 or so.
Yeah,
people completionists even less, and trimmed much less than that. So,
and what else this is going to do is, because this is going to consolidate quests and achievement diaries as well, which is great because
finally,
right now
that's how it used to be.
It's a bit confusing right now. There's so many systems, like there's the path system, there's these achievement diaries, there's the quest. That's all going to be consolidated, and maybe the daily challenges will become part of it as well. I hope so. And what that's going to do is you're going to be able to pull up an interface and be like, well, what am I going to do today? And that can be different every day. There's going to be less grinding, and it's going to be more like doing tiny little things, different things every day. And that's going to make people enjoy the game so much more, I think.
Indeed. That's really a great perspective on achievements, and I really didn't think of that when that was first announced, so I'm glad that you brought that up.
It took me some thinking to actually reach this point about, hey, actually, this is pretty amazing. If this is done right, this can change the way people play the game, and in a good way.
Okay. Expansions.
So as I said before, I cannot judge how expansions are going to work. But I am slightly concerned about one thing, and that is how expansions are going to take over the update schedule from other things.
Yes.
Because it is... So when we see the top 12 updates for next year, 4 of them are reworks. And I don't think reworks are particularly likely to be a part of an expansion. I am not going to say it's not possible. So I thought about this, and if you look at, say, the Elf City, you could imagine that if, say, thieving was in a dire need of a rework, what could have happened is that the new thieving mechanic that we have in Elf City would have been rolled out over the whole world, and that would have been effectively a rework that came out as part of an expansion. So it's not impossible.
Mm-hmm.
But it is really, really clear how important reworks are for RuneScape. There's so much old content that has to be fixed. And the mining rework and the agility rework and the bank rework are only the start of that. There's so much more that could use a rework. And I am not entirely sure if there is space for that in the expansions, because these reworks are massive updates. And if you have an expansion every 3 months, there's not going to be room for other massive updates. So how is that going to fit in? And furthermore, there's going to be 3 expansions next year, which leaves only a very, very small time slot to bring in the huge mining and smithing rework, the huge agility rework, the huge bank rework, the slightly less huge clue scroll rework. That's a lot of content to bring out in a year. And then there's all the other things they announced, like the quest and the pets and shattered worlds and you name it.
Yeah. And
I think there is too much content on the calendar for 2017.
The important thing also to remember is that in the reveal segment, it was said is that this is just an outline, it's subject to change.
Yeah, and I think this is going to change because I do not see, considering the content that they generally bring out currently, I do not see how they can fit all this plus the expansions in a single year.
Entirely possible that, some of this could be shaved off. And I think even when Maud Osborne was on the stage, he was saying that I don't know if we're going to get to all these. They wanted us to give dates, but I didn't feel comfortable giving dates is practically what he said. So we got to take that with a grain of salt and keep that in our minds that what was announced here might not eventually make it out. So.
Yeah. So expansions, they add a bit of concern to the thing. There's no way in telling how it's going to work out, and there's definitely a risk of things working out badly here. Maybe they can make it work. I really hope they do, and I'm not gonna say it's bad or it's good until I see how it turned out. But what I'm really happy about, and I think we can say this either way, is what these expansions are is they are a vision. And I think this is one of the most important things I took away from this RuneFest. As I said before, last year it felt like they were really scrambling things together and it was a bit messy. And now they have decided, all right, we're going to work with these expansions. This is what's going to make the game better. And that vision is something we have been missing for the last year. And I think
for the last couple years, actually.
We have been mentioning this in the last few updates. There is no vision. There's no direction. And I think the last vision we actually had was the player to the powers vision.
Oh, God.
And we both know. But I think everybody know what the opinion of both of us is about this vision. But you can't deny it was a vision. They believed in the fact that player to the power was going to make the future of RuneScape work out. Ended up not really doing that, but at least
At least they had the courage to try something.
Indeed. And now they're going to do the same thing with expansions. They might go down the same road as Play to the Plows, and it might not work, but maybe this time it does. And I think that's important. I think as a game developer and a game studio, you need to have that vision.
All right. Let's just summarize the last two, Menaphos and Evil Dave, quickly, because we are encroaching in on time here. So are these concerns, highlights, or...
Menaphos, I think, is really cool because it is going to take away of the certainty that you had in Fifth Dinners, and you have to work for your experience, and it's going to add the risk-reward mechanic.
It's also going to add discovery back.
Yes, and the risk-reward is what we need. We need less of the guaranteed experience. It's going to make the game more exciting.
I should also point out that there's a new TV series starting in 2017 called Star Trek Discovery, focusing on probably the same thing.
All right, nice plug. And yeah, finally, the Evil Dave quest has me quite excited as well, because I think the Gower quest was amazing. I think the community's response was very positive, and I can only imagine that this showed Jagex that people still want these lighthearted quests, and I really hope that Evil Dave is going to have the same tone and the same quality, and then we're going to enjoy that, and it's going to be the update of the year.
All right, and there's your RuneFest highlights from Sirion, and I'm glad that we took the time to do this, because our coverage last week was a much more matter of fact and saying what could and couldn't happen with these, because we were, we had just finished watching these like 45 minutes before we started recording, so there wasn't enough time to formulate opinions like you did. So I'm glad that we did have a look at this. So very good indeed. All right. Well then, let's move on to the behind the scenes for this week, and that is highlighting Tales of Nomad and Deathmatch. So obviously these are coming next week, and capping off the month of September with, I'm betting this is going to be the highlighting update for the month, Deathmatch, just because it's going to have going to be the first chance at revitalizing PvP. So I'm really eager to see what happens with this, and I think that so far we're looking great based on what we're seeing here in the video. And of course, the question is, how are you going to encourage people to jump into this? And Deathmatch, of course, you start off with a specific set of equipment, and then you're going to basically not need to risk anything to get started PvPing, which I think is great that this is probably coming out before Bounty Hunter.
I think it's good that they separated those in updates. It's gonna make people try both, hopefully.
Yeah, and I think the best part of this is that you don't need to commit your own weapons and armor to this.
Yeah, and I think that's gonna make a big difference. It's gonna be an economy like in and on itself, and I have seen that work in other games, and I think it's gonna lower the bar as well, because people don't want to risk their own stuff. No. So,
and I mean, if you think about when was the last time someone enthusiastically talked about PvP, then you can see how much this update is going to be needed. So, we are eagerly anticipating the release of Deathmatch. Tales of Nomad and the ability to kill Nomad again, the Nomad from the end of Nomad's Requiem. What do you think about that? I'm sorry, not Nomad, Gielinor.
I'm not really that excited about Nomad hard mode, to be honest. I might give it a shot because I thought the boss fight was quite fun. But yeah, the mini quests, always like those. It's maybe low investment content, but it adds a bit of lore. It adds a bit of discovery. I'm going to play that and probably enjoy it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that if you bring out these smaller bossing updates, oh, that's weird. Mod Raven just had a Cadbury Easter egg on his desk in the middle of September. I just noticed that in the behind the scenes. Sorry, I just had to point that out. But I didn't think you could get those outside of the Easter season. Anyways, as I was saying, this can definitely go a long ways to, providing a bossing experience and not necessarily needing to put out a full boss, because this is obviously dealing with assets that are already in game, which decreases the amount of work that will be needed. So it should be interesting to see how this goes.
Agreed.
And that'll be your last episode.
Oh, how sad.
Yeah. And I did reveal the next co-host by accident.
Yeah. If you want to know it, listen to last week's episode.
Nice plug. Anyways, time to move on to questions, I believe. So, I'll read the first one. It's from the RR Man. He says, Hey, it's the RR Man, and it's question time. So for the standard question this time of year, what are your double XP plans? I'm going to finally get the last few levels I need for 99 Invention, and get to taste that sweet Max Cape. Unfortunately for me, it doesn't have a headphone jack.
How disappointing.
Secondly, you guys mentioned last week a certain TV show wiki. I have to admit I've gotten lost in the wiki a few times myself. So I was wondering, what are some crazy pages you've ended up on while surfing Wikipedia? And we all know how it goes when you look up what's the capital of Canada, and after a dozen links you end up on a page about the Chernobyl disaster. Cheers, RR.
So double XP plans are pretty boring for me. I'm going to just do normal playing. I told myself I'm not going to bother grinding throughout the weekend. I'm going to try and get some invention experience, but that's going to be in a really relaxed pace. And I've already found out that fish vention is quite quick doing bonus XP, so there's probably going to be quite a lot of that. But I have to get enough Swift components, which might be the difficult part.
That won't be happening very swiftly.
Oh.
Yeah. As for me, I do plan to make around 2,000 Super Prayer Renewal Potions, which is really not going to turn out to be that much experience. I also have a bunch of supersets waiting to be made into Super War Master Potions. We'll see what the economy is doing for that this weekend. If people start dumping their super sets early on, then that might be something worth doing more of, but we'll just have to wait and see how the money goes with that. But aside from that, I didn't even plant trees this time around since I already have 120 farming. I didn't really feel the need to do that. So I don't really plan to do much aside from the herblore that I've already set aside the supplies for. So nice and low-key. And I don't know about you, but does it feel like you need to do double XP training now that they removed the falling multiplier? It's like ever since they put in the standard flat 2x multiplier, it doesn't feel as though you're getting as much, because for those first, 2 hours you would get hefty 2.7, 2.3, 2.4 multiplier, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now it's just flat 2x. And, I mean, you can have your own double XP weekend if you stock up on laps in your certain skills, right?
That is true. I like it this way because it means you don't feel
You don't
bad.
need to rush.
You don't need to rush. I am taking things really, really easy. I know some people sit in line and wait for the clock to take over and then just start going.
Yeah.
I am they had this tip video. I'm the bank stander. I'm just gonna look and watch people train and be really relaxed.
Yeah.
And get some experience, sure, but
yeah. And I mean, I think the thing that I would just like to remind everyone about this is to take regular breaks and don't spend the entire weekend playing RuneScape.
It's just a game. It's just a game.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Crazy pages on Wikipedia.
I am not sure if I can remember any, but what I do remember is that when we had IT classes in school, we used to play a game where we would go to a random page, and that would be the goal page. Then we would both go to a different random page, and then we had to use like links in the wiki article to get to the goal page as quickly as possible. And that was our way of getting through IT classes because, well, everybody knows how to do IT already.
That's right.
So that's the only thing I remember about doing wikis. I don't remember any weird pages.
Weird pages for me. Various methods of execution in the United States.
Wow.
Did you know that Mississippi is bringing back the firing squad?
Wow.
Because of the problems with lethal injection?
Wow.
And
I did not.
And there are still some states where poison gas is on the menu, as well as the electric chair.
Wow.
But the preferred method is of course lethal injection, and through that other states also firing squad I mentioned, but hanging was popular for a time. It's only on the menu still in a couple of states, but of course it hasn't been used in over 100 years. So there's one right there. Then there was also one once upon a time of comparing rights and freedoms in various countries, and that ultimately led to a discussion on punishment in Saudi Arabia and the various different kinds of crimes that they have there, such as though, if someone hurts one of your family members, you can either have them pay reparations to your family, or you can have an eye for an eye kind of crime done to them. That is, you could have them killed in the same way. And they also have really heinous punishments for things like rape and whatnot in Saudi Arabia as well. So, which I guess you can imagine what that would be.
So now the question is, how did you get there in the first place?
Like I said, I was searching for various rights and freedoms of different countries. I was looking up actually to see the various liberties that we have in the West and comparing them to all the different Middle Eastern countries out there. So that's how I ended up on that one. Mm-hmm.
Nice one.
Yeah, and suffice to say, one of the sanest and most Western-leaning Middle Eastern countries in terms of punishment and liberties is actually Israel. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's why it's good to have Israel as a friend.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so there's that. There's also, of course, ones on things like quantum mechanics and quantum physics.
Oh dear, I get lost in those.
Yeah, it's like when you're looking up relativity, and then that leads to quantum mechanics, and then because you were looking at relativity to see kind of how, where we are with relation to modern day warp drive and all that, because that has been theorized as possible. So you look up the Wikipedia page on that goes to relativity, and then quantum mechanics and all that other stuff like that.
I have the annoying habit of looking up these things just before having to go to bed. Yeah.
Yep.
I've literally stayed up until like 2 a.m. just reading these articles. It's so interesting.
Well, there you go. You want to take the next one from Wiley?
Sure. Hey guys, Wiley is back. Last week in a discussion about the enhanced perks, it felt like you were looking at the idea of enhanced perks taking up 2 perk slots with too much weight. Efficient has validity in working with other perks based on its part, but devoted does not. If you are trying for level 3 normal devoted, you will have to use 5 for the God Wars Dungeon 1 Gods components. Only 2 of these offer other possible perks. Zamak offers Impatient, which may be vaguely useful, and Bandus offers Genocidal, which, as Shane pointed out, people tend not to use Protection Feyard Slayer creatures unless for some reason you're killing Hellfire King on a task. Wow, that's a long sentence. Maybe. So you don't really lose out on the extra perks. While on the topic, wouldn't it make more sense balancing-wise for the enhanced perks to take up 2 gizmo slots instead of 2 perk slots? People usually focus in their perks to get the highest level they can. In terms of your job life... Oh, this is a different subject. In terms of your job life, do you prefer easy, monotonous jobs that don't pay the best, like being a carriage picker, or more difficult, stressful jobs that pay well, like working as a carriage botanist? Thanks for the show. Wow, that's like a novel.
I'm not sure how I feel about perks taking 2 perk slots.
I can see the point. You don't really use the second perk slot in a lot of cases. So
I mean, 2 gizmo slots instead of 2 perk slots. Like, I can see that's the case, and I can see where he's going with this. And if it did take 2 gizmo slots, then yeah, that really would be enhanced. But I mean, taking enhanced really only takes it up to, I think, level 5 instead of level 3, right? So I mean, that's in line with some other perks that already had all the way up to level 5. So I don't necessarily see where that would be going with that. But I mean, I think that this idea of 2 gizmo slots being taken definitely is a possibility in the future for other perks, if they wanted to do that.
Which would be interesting, because it means you cannot use them on all the things. I think some weapons can have only 1 gizmo slot.
That's right. The single-handed weapons.
Yeah. So that means you cannot use the two gizmo slots.
Two-handed weapons and the tools have 2 gizmo slots. So, and I can see why that's the case, because what else are you going to be wielding when you're, chopping wood, right?
Yeah, true.
So, I thank you, Wiley, for clarifying that, and I guess at the end of the day, you're not losing out. So, but I'd say just keep it as 2 perk slots, and then keep the gizmo slots for some kind of expansion going forward. All right. Easy and monotonous, or stressful?
Oh, that's a tough one.
It has to be somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to completely burn yourself out.
No, but you don't want to do a monotonous job as well, because that's gonna eventually get you entirely crazy.
And that could potentially be replaced by a robot.
Yeah.
So if a robot cabbage picker.
If I had to pick between cabbage picker and cabbage botanist, I would definitely go for the botanist one.
Yeah, same here. And I think that botany is certainly an interesting thing, and maybe could be combined.
Well, you would say that with your 124.
Well, I would just wait where I'm going right now. I was going to say that we could combine farming and herblore and create the botany elite skill.
Okay. Yeah, that works.
I don't know what it would be used for, but it's definitely something on the menu, right?
It would be used to make better strains of cabbage,
which we all know is going to have some role with Brassica Prime. I had Draz on the show last week, which you probably heard, for a few minutes, and he was just over the top about Brassica being confirmed the most powerful entity in the final God Wars series quest.
It's gonna be so good.
But yeah, I think in reality you got to find somewhere in between. But if we're talking specifically RuneScape, I think that we would definitely go for the botany job, because otherwise the cabbage picker can just be assigned to a bot. Hence the botany.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry, I just made a horrible pun there. But
God.
Anyways, anything else on Wiley's question?
Oh, that seems to be it.
Yeah. And if you do use protection prayers out there, I'm actually going to take a mini survey about this in the clan chat, in the friends chat next time I'm on. Do you guys use protection prayers in Slayer tasks? That's something I'd like to know. So look out for that.
I don't.
Yeah, I don't either. Soul split.
Soul split all the way.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you for the questions, both of you. If you want to send more in, just email us questions at rsbnb.com, or leave them at update.rsbnb.com/ask. Or if you want to use your voice and talk to us, we have the Google Voice number, which is 571-57BNB, or 571-572-2632. And you can also email them to questions at rsbnb.com, or leave us a direct message on Twitter at rsbnb. Okay. into tech news we go, and some horrifying news coming from Yahoo. Yahoo announced that at least 500 million user accounts have been compromised and their data stolen, including passwords and addresses, names. Biggest data breach ever on record for a company like Yahoo, and they're blaming state-sponsored hackers. And this is, of course, after Yahoo is already struggling with its core bottom line, and they are looking at selling themselves to Verizon.
Which has now, so Verizon has actually said they will now reconsider that.
Exactly. So this doesn't bode well for the future of Yahoo, what future was left, specifically because this will cause their value to go down even further. And who wants a company that is going to be having to deal with the blowback of hacked users? So not really a good thing happening to Yahoo this week. So basically, if you are a Yahoo user, 500 million accounts, that's probably everyone. It's probably best to change your password. And I think at this point, if you use Yahoo Mail, you think it's time for someone to start considering swapping to like Gmail or Live Mail from Microsoft Outlook?
Yeah, the last time I saw a Yahoo email address has been a while. I doubt that a lot of people are actually still actively using it, but I do think that the alternatives you named, both Gmail and Live Mail, are probably better than Yahoo Mail.
Yeah,
and they are both part of like a huge company that is
companies that won't be going away.
And they are doing really, really well. I think you can trust both of them to take care of your email in a responsible way.
Yeah. Following from this, the intrusion came in 2014, late 2014. That's when the Sony hack was happening. Many, of course, other attacks happened then as well. So it's believed to have come from China, but we'll have to wait and see about this. Of course, the conventional wisdom today is that it could have been Russia, given the way Russia has been acting in the last few months. So, the fact this has happened, practically 20 months ago, and we're just hearing about it now, is really worrying. The fact that either Yahoo didn't notice it or they didn't report it. So definitely a reason, I think, to move away from Yahoo. But the FBI is investigating, and of course, if they can, they will bring these people to justice. But definitely the largest, because comparing other ones, for scale here, LinkedIn and Sony were 117 million and 100 million accounts compromised, respectively. Target was 70 million, Home Depot 56 million. So, I mean, this dwarfs all of them combined. So, very worrying if you use Yahoo. Definitely time to move away. And in some happier tech news this week, Google released its Allo Chat app, which effectively brings its assistant to chat and is looked at improving chat experiences on mobile. Mobile only right now. And that's, of course, the big problem with Allo, right?
Yeah, so Allo does what it has to do for a text messaging app. It does that and not much more in terms of text messaging, which means there's not really a reason to switch away from, say, WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or what have you. So the only exciting new thing is Assistant. But I can't see people going in a chat app to use Assistant if they don't use the chat app in the first place. So I am not entirely sure what Google's strategy here is to get people to switch to Google to Allo.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, everyone is already in their ecosystem, whether it be WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, or iMessage, and all of these platforms now, except for WhatsApp, have applications and some level of intelligence in them. So it's not like this is something groundbreaking. I mean, maybe for Android users, but
I mean, the Assistant, I have seen the Assistant in, like, there were like lots of demonstrations and all, and it looks like it works pretty well, and that's great. I would say it performs generally better than most of the bots that are out there right now, and you would expect that from Google to make a bot that works really, really well because they have so much data to go on. But that's the only really exciting thing about this app, I think. And I don't think people are really massively using chatbots yet, and probably that's not going to make people switch to Alone.
Yeah, definitely. So, I don't know. Is it backwards compatible with Hangouts?
I don't think it is.
No, then what's
because
the point?
this is phone number based.
Ah, okay. Yeah, and I mean Hangouts is practically cross-platform, including in Gmail. So there's no point in this right now, unless you want to play with Google's Assistant.
Mm-hmm.
Our final piece of tech news this week is confirming reports that have been long speculated that Twitter's board of directors is looking for a sale. They're wanting to sell the company off. They have received expressions of interest from both tech and media companies, most notably including Salesforce.com and Google. So
Shane, explain to me, what is the interest of these companies in acquiring Twitter?
I honestly have no idea. For me, Twitter is effectively right now a glorified newsfeed. I think we've known for the longest time that interactions on Twitter aren't that great, and they, really, aside from huge live events, it seems as though, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like they're that special of a platform. So I think Google would be taking a step down from this. I mean, well, maybe not true, because they have Google Plus, which really doesn't do anything, right?
Do people use Google Plus?
Exactly. So maybe people would use something that was like Google Plus if it was Twitter. I don't know. But I don't know. The company needs to be sold, and they're not doing anything with it. It serves no purpose, I don't think, and except for brands talking to people, which I guess is evident with the way that JX talks to their base with Twitter. That's definitely one positive from it. But beyond that, I just can't see any value in it. There's no way to monetize the company. There never was a business model. Their CEO is famously quoted as saying a business model will emerge. Well, evidently it never did. So,
is there any user data that might be of interest?
Well, I mean, if you're talking about data, definitely Google has the superior data mission with their ads, and Facebook probably even has a better one with likes. So, I don't know.
Fair.
I mean, what is a like on Twitter? People really don't say, oh, I'm going to like this post, and then you're going to get more posts about whatever it might be. So, I don't know. I'm kind of past the whole Twitter thing, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised if it just went to Salesforce or something like this, because, I mean, what would Google do with it?
I have no idea.
The only thing they could do with it would be to use it to reboot Google Plus, but who would use that?
Why would Twitter would not fit in Google Plus?
Right?
I cannot find no.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it honestly just needs to be taken out back and shot dead.
Yeah, I mean I still use it, so it's a bit weird to say. Yeah, but
we're not getting any inherent value from it. That's why we can say that.
Yeah.
So, anyways, on to the Skill of the Month update we go. It's going to be interesting to report on this next week, being double XP weekend. Currently, Super Clank is still in first place in this Magic Skill of the Month with 8.9 million XP gained. Second place, Pronancius with 3.8. And third place, Jaden with 3 million XP. So it'll be interesting to see if we have any movement in the lower echelon and any lead changes this weekend for double XP weekend. Kind Come on, guys, it's magic. Do something magical. So, following from that, we have a couple of achievements of the week to mention, a couple great ones. Mandy got 99 fletching on the 20th. Congratulations. And Tana79 of RSBNB Informer got 120 invention, the big 120, on September 18th. So congratulations to you there.
Congratulations to both of you.
Yes. I look forward to seeing more of your guys' gains this weekend with some stats. Maybe next week I'll do a roundup and compare the previous 2 weekends on the RSBNB high scores for XP gain, seeing what kind of changes we have due to the double XP weekend. I think that'd be an interesting experiment, don't you?
Definitely.
Yeah. If you guys are hearing this and you want to sign up for future achievements of the week mentioning, or 120s, 200 mils, whatever it might be, you just sign up on the RSBNB forums, make a post activating your forum account, and fill in the RS profile, and you're good to go. So, rsbnb.com/forums. Okay. So it's the time of the show where we talk pick of the week. What do you got for us this week?
All right, so I think a few weeks ago I picked up a tiny game from the App Store on my iPad, and it was off 80%, so it cost me like €1. And it was a game called Human Resource Machine. I had heard of it before, and I heard generally positive stories about it, but never really played it. And it turns out to be a game basically where you do assembly programming. And
all right, I'm going to stop you. Okay, explain what assembly programming is to the listeners.
Programmers these days have the luxury of having all nice languages. But if you go all the way down into like the computer, it still works with really simple instructions. Instructions like take this value from this place, or put this value to this other place, or add one to this value, or subtract these two values from each other. It's simple as that. There's no complicated control structures or anything. It's really, really basic instructions. But every single program that you run on your computer eventually runs down to those commands. And there will be thousands of them to make your computer run. But you can do quite a lot of things with only a few of them already. And this game basically teaches you how to use these commands to do tiny little things. And it reminded me of doing my programming exercises in university, but in a really playful way, in a way that was really accessible. I think if you have some idea of how logic works, you could probably figure this out without any prior experience in programming, and you would probably find the later levels quite difficult, but I think it's doable for pretty much everybody. And it's a lot of fun. There's a layer of humor in the game. The graphics are quite cute, and I was amazed how accessible they can make something that even I find difficult, because assembly programming is not easy. I mean, I think Shane can agree with that.
Yeah, definitely.
It's really difficult.
Most complicated thing I ever implemented was a linked list, and that was pretty bad.
Yeah. So you start with like really simple things, but you grow your skill set, and in the end you can make like reasonable good programs in assembly, and it is pretty impressive for a game company to make something that makes you grow programming skills. And we need more of this, to be honest. And I definitely invite everybody to try it out. It's available on mobile, it's available on desktop, it's really accessible. I would recommend waiting for a sale. It's probably not worth the full price, but definitely worth looking into if you're even remotely interested.
So what did you end up implementing?
So it starts with just moving things from input to output, but the most difficult ones are, for example, finding out if a number is prime.
Right.
Or sorting a list of numbers.
And which did you do?
I did both.
Oh, okay. And which one was the hardest one?
I think the sorting one was harder. I think the eventual implementation was slightly shorter because the prime one is pretty easy to like think about how to do it, but it takes a while to get a good overview of how to implement it. The sorting one is you basically know how to implement it. It just takes a lot of commands to implement it. And
Right.
it was quite fun, but it took me probably about an hour to figure out how to put all the commands together, and a lot of debugging as well.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it.
This is $4.99 on the American Apple App Store. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a huge price, but it's definitely up there. It's not your usual 99-cent game.
Yeah,
But
so I got
you're
it
paying
at
one
80%.
time for this. So
Yeah. I got it
80%
at
off.
80%, so that's only $1. So that's nice. You could wait for that.
Yeah. All right, and that's the Human Resource Machine. One might think it's a simulator for some kind of office game or something, but no, it's actually a programming simulator.
It's quite funny because the program you write is actually applied to like a little employee that is you. So it's like an employee running around executing your commands, which makes really visual what's happening. And I think that makes a difference. You see like what is happening. You see somebody picking up something from a register and putting it down somewhere else. And it's so well thought out.
Yeah, I definitely think that this is something that we need more of, and I think that going forward, knowing how to code is going to be like knowing how to write. And, not necessarily knowing how to code and make applications for Windows, Mac, or iOS, but just knowing how to code enough in, say, JavaScript or Python to automate something and automate a task that you might need to perform.
Agreed.
So... Alrighty, so let's talk about what we've been doing. So what have you been up to this past week?
Well, mostly recovering from my weekend of like traveling around the whole country, So I went back to the Netherlands, where I come from, and well, I don't go back very often, so I spent traveling back and forth a lot to visit everybody. So I've been recovering from that, and not preparing enough for the double XP weekend, but it's fine. I'm taking it really relaxed. And
I think that's what we got to do at this stage. Take it all relaxed.
And I've tried to do some working because, well, I got some tips and I wanted to try them out. I was like, let's try the companion app for this. So I dug that. I dug that out of the dust. It's not the greatest app, but it's quite funny to just go in the train in the morning and like do some working, and it's interesting how the companion app is not that bad at staying interactive with the game, even if you can't actually play the game yourself. It's not great either. I have to re-log in every single time on my phone. And I use a password manager, so that involves going to my password manager, copying my password, pasting it into. That could have been better, but I think it's good. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that they could improve on that, and that'll come with time. Obviously, it's not a main thing to pay attention to, but it's out there. Mm-hmm. Anything else?
No, not really. I just some dailies and just trying to take it slowly.
All right. As for me this week on RS, just gathering all the ingredients for double XP weekend. By the time I got into, purchasing more potions and whatnot, the prices had already started going up, so I didn't want to put too many losses into it, but I've already committed 40 million GP raw value to making potions. We'll have to see how much of that I get back. Hopefully a nice amount, but that's what's going to be happening on my double XP weekend. About 2,000 potions being made, so that should be good fun. And I don't think there's much else I'll do on double XP weekend. Not really going for any invention stuff, but
You should hang out with me just hang out at like the top of the Elf Waterfall fishing place.
I don't want to go there. Is there a bank up there?
Yeah, there is actually.
Okay, maybe I'll come up there when you're doing it then. So,
are you joining the common folk in the Tower of Voices?
No, I try and stay away from the Tower of Voices if I can.
So where are you, like, making potions then?
I normally alternate it. Most times, like, I don't know if you get a boost from it or anything like that, but I normally do it in the Melior district north of the farming patch. Another thing I probably should be doing is going to one of the worlds where they're using portable wells all the time. But, I mean, you don't get extra potions from when you're doing combination potions. You only have the chance of saving an ingredient, so it might be worth it, and you get the extra 10% XP. So, I mean, that adds in, and combined with my outfit, we'd be up to, 216% XP. So, I don't know if that extra 10% of XP is going to be worth it, but that's what I would get if I was using wells. But I don't know if I want to go to an area that's crowded. So, we'll see.
I have heard people, like, literally having problems right now getting into some worlds in Burford.
I honestly didn't think that would ever be a problem in this version of RS.
Maybe they're using the Java client, I haven't asked.
Maybe. And that's a good point. If anyone out there is using the Java client and hasn't tried NXT, or, doesn't have a hardware reason not to use NXT, they should definitely give it a go. So.
True.
But yeah, I believe that's it for this episode. Next week we've got Deathmatch, of course, so that should be interesting. Send your questions in for Sirion's last stint as regular co-host next week. Ask him anything you want, and we will answer them. Questions at RSBANDBupdate.com or 571-57BNB, 571-572-2632. Figured to say that just once more so we can get those questions in for you.
Oh dear.
Yeah, but
you just told him to ask me anything. Oh dear.
That's right. We used to have lots of interpersonal questions on this show, like what do you sleep in? What kind of underwear do you wear? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, our host, our questioners used to want to know every little detail about us. But
don't gift him ideas.
All right. Well, with that being said, we will see you next week, everyone, and have a good double XP weekend. Thank you for sharing your time with us.
Bye.